so the Canon EOS R8. This is a very interesting camera. Canon has done a lot of great things on this camera, but there's many but, which we're gonna get into later. But let's talk about the things that I love. The grip on this camera is fantastic. It is great, like pretty much all of the other Canon cameras. I feel like Canon just has like the best grip ever. And this is quite important for people who doesn't really use a neck strap like me. Personally, I pretty much never use a neck strap whenever I'm going out shooting. The camera is either in my hand or on my tripod, and that is it. I actually really like the size of this camera. It's small and the grip is there, but for Canon, especially the RF line-up lenses, I feel like with the bigger ones, the one with the red rings and everything, it's still too big, like it's very front heavy. However, if you pair it up with like the nifty 50 over here, or even the 35, or perhaps the 28, which I'm kind of excited about. Either way, like I said, I don't feel like this is exactly made to be paired up with like the big lenses, the RF lenses that the Canon has made so far, but only with the budget-friendly ones. I'm glad I have two dials up here, one in the front with your index finger as well as with the thumb right at the back over here, since a lot of the RF camera has that functional ring in front where you can set it to anything you want. Personally, I like to set it to aperture, kind of like how the film camera works, so I don't have to like think twice about like what's this ring changing. And because I'm shooting manual most of the time anyways, having these two dials, one for shutter speed and the other one for ISO, and that is perfect. This is all I need. The thumb placement, there's no joystick, and the AF on buttons on the very edge towards the side over here, which I was kind of iffy about at first because I'm so used to using the R5 where my thumb placement is right on the AF on, so I can do like back button focus. But after shooting with this camera for a while, I noticed that I can actually use the end of my thumb to kind of like press it too, so it's not that far off. But then that leaves this space like blank, and I kind of wish they just stick like a joystick or even like a wheel or something, because there's no wheel at the bottom too. It's you only get this directional pad. But then again, this might be a way for them to separate like a budget-friendly camera compared to the higher end ones, which is a bit annoying to be honest, because there are many other things on here that's just not there, such as a small battery. Right now the battery is in the same location as the SD card. And yes, we only get to use one SD card, which is okay, I guess. In this price range, it's only 1,500 bucks. However, the battery size is the small one. It's I think it's called one of the LPE 17. It's just, if you have any other Canon camera, you won't be able to switch out and use the same battery. That means you have to carry different batteries and at the same time, a different battery charger. Now we do get this articulating screen. It's pretty basic nowadays with all the Canon cameras. I also do like how they have the on and off button on the right side, so I can use like one-handed operation if I'm doing like street photography where I need to turn it on really quickly. And also this switch from photos and video. This is fantastic. I kind of wish I had that on the Canon R5. It's just way more prominent right here. Now I kind of gotten used with the R5 because I have the function button set up to like switch between photo and video, which is very convenient as well. But still, that means I have to waste the function button for that specifically. If they have one just up here, I wouldn't mind it at all. Another thing about the Canon R8 is that there's no mechanical shutter, only electronic and first curtain. So basically, if you're shooting something that's moving really fast, go with electronic shutter because it has higher burst rate and it does not cause much of a rolling shutter. Whereas if you want to shoot in a lower shutter speed with higher dynamic range, you will want to switch to electronic first curtain. Now speaking of shutter, the R8 does not have that like shutter curtain whenever you turn off the camera. And I'm pretty sure Canon did this on purpose, like just to save cost or just to kind of differentiate like entry-level mirrorless camera compared to like the higher end one. And I guess in a way that kind of makes sense because it does have the same 24 megapixel sensor as the R6 Mark II, which is like $1,000 more with obviously a lot more pro features per se. Now let's talk a bit more about inside the camera. The very first thing I noticed is it's not like a deal breaker or anything. Usually when I go in there and then check the battery life with my R5, I can see like a percentage, but not with the R8. You have like 3 bars, and I believe the very first bar is like 50%, and then it goes to like 25% perhaps. I can't be sure because there's no number on there. But just like little things like this, why not just put like a number there, a percentage? It shouldn't be that hard, right? But honestly, this is not a big deal at all. They can still fix this and update it in the future firmware. It's very fascinating that this has that good of an autofocus in this price range. Like, I'm just blown away. Like, I know it's the same sensor as the R6 Mark II. There's different autofocus that you can choose from people, animal, vehicle, which I don't personally use that much. So far, I find them pretty spot on and very, very sticky. The autofocus, my goodness, like on the R8, if I'm a beginner, this is the camera I go to start with to do anything. Now, because there's no joystick or like a wheel dial here, I find it kind of cumbersome to navigate between like the menu. It's fine using the directional pad here, but I find it way faster using like a joystick or anything, or like right now I'm just kind of have to like tap on the screen to go to the places I want to go to inside the menu, which is totally fine as long as you get used to it. And whenever you're shooting with the EVF here, you also notice that without a joystick right on the side here, you kind of have to like really nail your focus by turning on the LCD control of the focus point by using your thumb. I personally still kind of like using the joystick better, but this kind of works too. And once you're used to it, it's actually quite fast when you move around your finger on the LCD screen. And because there's no joystick on this camera, you can also tap on the screen to switch between the focus. If you have like multiple people, you can switch between like which people you want to focus by just tapping on the screen. It's good, but at the same time, that means you have to like toggle through all of them and then come back again. So you have to keep on hitting the screen in order to find the one that you want to focus on. I mean, it kind of works, but not very like a preferred way to do that in my opinion. It's just like little things like this. It works, but not exactly the way I want it to work. And all of these could be solved by just placing a joystick on here. Okay, let's go over some of the video functions in this camera because it's quite amazing. Like, you get 4K 60 oversample uncropped. I know there's no in-body image stabilizer, and that is totally fine. It's $1,500. Like, if it has that in there, this will be mind-blowing. But this one doesn't, and that is okay because like 4K 60 uncropped, this is plenty already, especially for this price. And on top of that, you can also shoot in C-Log 3 10-bit, and you can also shoot slow motion at 1080 120 frames per second. Like, just with these functions alone on this camera, this is a great, like, this is a very, very well-rounded first camera to get into, either for photography or even videography. I say if you want to take YouTube videos a bit more seriously, and at the same time you also have to do like photography work like I do all the time, where you're just kind of starting out or you're upgrading, this is a fantastic camera to upgrade to. Like, yes, there's only one SD card. You can't really back up anything with this, but just be mindful and back it up whenever you can, and that shouldn't be a problem. And yes, if you're thinking about vlogging with this camera, it's totally doable. Make sure that you get a lens with image stabilizer. This way it makes it more steady. And on top of that, you also have like a digital IS inside the camera, which kind of crops in a bit. So here's a couple of vlogging tests that I did with the Canon R8. So the Canon EOS R8 does not have in-body image stabilization. The one right now is the lens image stabilization, which is okay, I think. But then again, I'm only looking through the flip-out screen, so this might not be accurate at all. Okay, now I'm using the digital IS, which crops in a little bit. I mean, it's not bad. I can still see everything in frame. This is way more stabilized than the other one. And I just realized there's like an enhanced version of digital image stabilization, and this is way more stabilized. I could be running, I'm walking really fast right now, and Wow, this is great. With all of these functions inside the Canon R8, I really wish when I first upgrade to the full frame camera, it will be this one, because this has pretty much everything when I was looking for one back then. And to be honest, I feel like they will sell a lot of these. Like, a lot of people will be getting this camera. This is just way too hard to beat. It's overall very, very versatile and powerful in a way where it just works. And yes, it doesn't have like all the bells and whistles like the R6 Mark II or even the R5, but the quality of work that you can create from this camera at this price point is just unmatched.